Thanks for tuning in, YouTube subscribers and viewers. Deuces Wild here. I just wanted to do a quick update on the Losi Baja Rey that I picked up probably a few weeks ago. It wasn't too long ago. Just some of the things that I've done and the issues that I've had to deal with. We all do in the RC world. There's always things that we like to modify and whatnot. So let's just get right into it. So this truck, the first thing that broke playing around, bashing around on it was the front bumper. No big deal. It just broke one side. I've replaced that since. The second issue that I had with this truck, the stock rims or wheels cracked real easy when I flipped it, rolled it, whatnot. Mind you, I was at a short course track, and this is really not a short course truck, and I was being a little rough with it on a cold day and finding out what it could take and what it can't. So I cracked 3 out of the 4 rims, and so I started looking on YouTube and trying to figure out, how people have resolved this issue. And I found Bulletproof RC, Keith at Bulletproof RC. His YouTube channel helped me a lot. I actually followed his instructions on heating the tires up in your oven at 325 for 20 minutes, and it worked great. I did accidentally tear one of the tires, removing it from the rim, and I think that had to do with when it was glued at the factory. There was just a little too much glue on one part of it, and it just tore the wheel. So that's now my spare tire. The only stock rim I have left on this truck is the one for the spare tire, and I don't plan on using it. This is just for looks. I did find something other than what I found Keith talking about. He was talking about the Team Associated KMC wheels, which would work. They have the same inset and whatnot. But I found these at my local hobby store, and they are Losi rims. And these are the wheels for the Losi SCTE. You can't really see it that well on the camera, but it's Losi LOS B7018. And the cool thing about these particular rims, because it's for the Losi SCTE, I guess that's the short course truck. The cool thing about using the SCTE rims on the stock tires that come on the Losi Baja Rey is you don't have to get rid of the calipers. They fit perfectly. They're the exact same size, everything, inset, everything as the stock wheels that come on the Losi Baja Rey. With one, or I'd say a couple of advantages. They are a little thicker and they're firmer. It's not as soft. The plastic on these stock wheels is very soft. They're going to break real easy. Resolve that issue. The other issue I had with this truck, the very next thing that gave me trouble was the inner pinion bearing. They have 2 bearings. They have an inner and an outer. The outer is closer to the drive line, and the inner is closer to the ring gear. It was the one closest to the ring gear that gave out, and I heard this crunching sound. So I knew right away I had trouble with that. So I went ahead and ordered fast Eddy bearings, and I've gone through this entire, I've had this truck completely apart, in sections, mind you. I went ahead and replaced that bearings when they came in right away and put them in just on the pinion bearings and drove it around. My last video you saw me doing a little test run with my buddy Zach in his Traxxas 4x4. We were out on the out on the baseball diamond and tearing it up and everything, having a good time. It was actually after that video that I cracked a couple more rims and I did that whole thing. I've since also ordered and installed, I ordered from my local hobby store the RC 4-wheel drive hardcore solid aluminum rear axle. Once this came in, I went ahead and put all brand new bearings. I had also ordered a brand new ring and pinion gear because I thought it might have been damaged, the original one and the original axle. When I took it apart, it really wasn't bad at all. But being that this is all new and now this all has fast Eddy bearings throughout, I went ahead and just put brand new ring and pinion gear and just make it all fresh. So I've done that, and then I've also moved my shocks to the further aft from their original position all the way back. That prevents the axle from dropping down as low as it will when it comes out of the box. So if you do jump it, you're going to get less of that donkey flip type thing when the rear axle springs down further. The other thing I've noticed is this truck actually handles better in loose gravel and flips less because of its lower ride height. So I've lowered the entire thing down a little bit lower than it would be out of the box, and I've been having less issues with flipping and whatnot. So that's a good thing. I would suggest doing that. And if you look up the word Baja in Spanish, it actually means low. So this thing actually performs better lower to the ground. I've since learned a few things about this truck. So I wouldn't consider this a basher. So I've been taking a lot easier on this truck and just enjoying its handling and speed, and just keep jumps very minimal, just low. Yeah, I don't want to fling this thing up in the air and cartwheel it and do all kinds of crazy flips, because you know, after a while you get tired of breaking stuff and fixing stuff. When I do break stuff, I put better stuff in, so I don't have to worry about that issue ever again. But this is a very well designed truck. It runs circles around my Traxxas Slash. It's just a much greater joy to drive this thing. So that was another upgrade I did. I also, so the wheels are done, the rear axle, all the bearings throughout. There was only 3 bearings that I couldn't replace, and 2 of them were on the front diff, the one on each side of the actual your differential. I don't know how to get them off. I couldn't find a grub screw, so maybe somebody out there could give me pointers on that. Also on the center diff, I had no problem replacing the bearing on the drive shaft side for the rear, but I couldn't remove the one on the towards the front drive shaft. I couldn't figure out how to get it off there. So those are still, so there's only 3 original bearings, 2 on the front diff, front and rear of the front diff, and then the one on the front of the center diff. Other than that, they've all been replaced. Maybe at some point somebody can show me or give me pointers on how to remove them, and then I'll have to go in there and make a project of that, because that's quite entailed. If any of you guys own this truck, you know there's a lot involved in taking stuff apart, because these trucks are designed so well. They're designed, in my opinion, in a way that, with this roll cage and the way everything ties in together, it's designed in a way to distribute stress from impacts evenly throughout the truck. So it's really a tough truck. Bumpers are kind of flimsy, but all in all, with a roll cage on it, it makes it extremely impact resistant, if you will. So that's been done. So yeah, and I also installed a Savox 1210. I followed Keith's video on the 1258, but unfortunately that's been discontinued. You can still buy the gears for them, but this is a good equivalent. It's a lot faster than the stock one. So its speed rate on it is 0.13, and its torque is 23.0/319.4 ounces. So that's pretty strong. That's probably way stronger than the truck needs, but that's okay. I'm good with beefier stuff. What else? I haven't done anything else modification wise other than the bearings, the steering servo, the rear axle, and then swap the tires out. And then I did do one little thing, because I kept noticing every time I go and drive this thing in an area where there's kind of a small gravel or sand, that I'll start getting a crunching sound, and what happens is gravel gets underneath the motor somehow, and it gets into the spur and pinion gear, and you have to take the plate off and go in and clean it out. And of course I noticed the little crossbar here where your motor mounts onto it slides in and out, and so you can I actually had to put a little spacer washer to get the gear mesh just right, so it wasn't too sloppy or too tight. But I thought, how can I keep little tiny rocks from getting in there, because if they get in there in your gears, they're going to start roughing up your gears and messing things up. So I thought, well, I can make a gasket. How can I make a gasket? Well, actually, I didn't really have any gasket material, but what I did do is I took the foam out of the box that the rear axle came in. It's a nice soft open cell compressible foam. I actually cut a piece of it to fit just on this side, the front side of these 2 bolts, and all the way around. So there's an entire compressible foam piece in here. So now I'm hoping, and we're going to find out when I test it, but I'm hoping that will stop those little tiny pebbles from getting in to the ring and pinion and prevent that from happening. I've also seen guys talk about little rocks getting up inside here, which I don't quite know how to stop that from happening, but I'm probably just going to start carrying a little air duster can with me each time I run it, just blast it to keep those out. You don't want to put, I don't want to put any stress on the any of the bearings from coming, you know, for the diffs or the anywhere where that stuff can get trapped in there and put extra stress on your bearings, and that would probably be an early failure to your bearings, and I don't want that happening. So I'm gonna see, I didn't want to take that apart and show you, I just wanted to explain it to you, but if you have any compressible foam, you can probably try that same trick, and hopefully, I'm gonna test it and I'll let you know what happens if it works, but hopefully that'll stop those little tiny little pieces of gravel and crud that gets under there or gets in your gears, and could potentially cause gear damage and extra stress on your bearings and motors and everything else. So hopefully that little trick works, and we'll have even better success with this truck now that's beefed up. And I really love this truck, and now that I've had more experience with it, I've actually kind of attuned myself or adjusted myself to how this truck needs to be driven and treated when you're, you know, if I want to bash, I'll take my, if I want to do big jumps and do crazy stuff, I'll just take my little Traxxas Slash 2-wheel drive and, you know, go hog wild with it. But this is more, being that it's a trophy truck, it's tough, but it's fragile at the same time. So it's designed specifically for, you know, track racing, not short course or jumps so much, unless you're the kind of guy that doesn't care, likes to break stuff and can, you know, don't mind replacing it all the time. Me, I'd rather get more enjoyment out of it and spend less time working on it. So that's something to keep in mind if you're considering getting this truck and you've been looking at it. Just know that don't consider it a basher. If you start jumping, you're going to break stuff. You know, that's just, I mean, that happens with pretty much every RC vehicle out there. Some can withstand it more than others. And if you're doing jumping and all that stuff on a cold day, say in the low 20s or even below freezing, you're more than likely going to break stuff because plastic is more brittle in cold temp. Well, everything's more brittle in cold temperatures, so it's something to you know, take into consideration when you're out there having fun with these vehicles. So anyway, guys, I'm going to cut it short, and I just wanted to do a little update review and overview, if you will, of my experience with this. I haven't had it very long, but I've done quite a bit to it, and each time it gets better and better. So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and have a wonderful day. Deuces Wild over and out.